Dearest gentle listeners, you are listening to the Ladies Bridgerton, the talk of the ton. We are your effervescent hosts, your neighbourhood-friendly Kiwi, Tash from Middle-earth, New Zealand.
And Patti, Regency romance enthusiast, currently writing her unapologetically audacious.
Settle down onto your favourite settee as we delve into the lives of the elite and illustrious ladies, lords, and royalty of the ton. This Bridgerton podcast is two friends talking romance, symbolism, Easter eggs, and, like Colin going in on Penelope, deep diving into the connections of our favorite character. We cover both book, TV series, and notable social media, and therefore will contain spoilers. My own little intro had a spoiler there. What time is it?
What time is it?
It is Pod Snacks.
Pod Snacks.
Pod
Pod
Snackity Snacks.
Pod Snackity Snack. What are you snacking on today, Miss Tash the Kiwi?
I still can't really do snacks yet. I had my wisdom teeth removed a week and a bit ago, and I still can't really chew. So today's pod snacks was scrambled eggs and a coffee.
And the reason we're saying is because we ate our snacks an hour and a half ago when we started and just chit-chatted for the last 90 minutes before.
What was our tangents on today? Bananas and pajamas. The Rookie. Taylor
life
Swift,
being
Julia
hard.
Quinn.
Yeah.
The tangents.
We talked about The Rookie for a long time.
Well, I finally got access to
barbecues.
Season 7. It was, this weekend's been busy.
Bonkers. And back pain, barbecues, and bonkers weekends. There you go. And Lady Patti's pod snacks today. I had a BLT taco. Delicious.
I'm still traumatized.
Low carb taco
by the egg salad taco.
I shared a TikTok. It's my favorite part of that TikTok is when she goes, "Oh no, baby Jesus just pooped in his diaper."
She was iconic.
She put taco seasoning, and she kept calling it the Caucasity cookbook.
I know.
She goes, I'm Caucasian, but that's more Caucasian than even I am.
Casper's like, hey,
I gotta see if that's in the Caucasity cookbook. I'm calling my Aunt Fern.
It was denied in the 1970s. It was too Caucasity even for them.
And yes, and I'm talking about it so much. I have to get the ladies' names so you guys can find this TikTok. It has to happen.
Iconic.
I hope I.
It's in Tangent Squad.
Calling out North Omaha Cat Lady. North Omaha Cat Lady made me cackle today.
Yeah. It was iconic.
So my other pod snacks, I had a peach mango zip fizz, which is my favorite flavor. And I finally was able to get it from Amazon again because it's, again, reasonably priced and not double the price it normally is.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to order it again. I have my soda, again, not naming names. I have hot tea, and I made my...
You know what?
What?
I'm intermittent to go get pod snacks. You know what?
What are you for?
Mint ice makeup.
You can do that. Well, I'm going to say this, and then while you intermittent, I'm going to let my dog out whine it. But I also made my, I found this protein like brownie thing on TikTok, and you make it with cottage cheese, which I don't like cottage cheese. But if you put it in a blend jet and make it smooth with an egg, you don't even notice it's cottage cheese. It just adds extra protein. But Patti can't leave a recipe alone. So instead of adding cocoa, I added PB2 to make it peanut buttery, and a little bit of peanut butter and some sugar-free chocolate chips. And you microwave it, and but you leave it a little bit gooey, like lava cakey. And it's been like my favorite thing for the last 2 days. It's so delicious. So Tosh isn't back with her mint ice cream yet, so I'm going to go let my dog out, and I will return myself.
Pod snacks, pod snacks, pod snackity. I am back with my pod snacks.
Did you pause before you left?
No.
Okay.
Because I thought you were going to do the intro.
No, I did all that talking, and then I had to let my dogs out, which we're going to have to intermittence again here in a minute because they didn't. Am I on pause now?
Yes.
So the sponsor for today's pod snack segment
is my son.
Maria.
I stole his pterodactyl spoon because everything else is in the dishwasher.
It is Ezra and Maria. Maria is still, her generous support is still funding, like what I bought for pod snacks is still occurring. So Maria, thank you for your support.
This ice cream is called After Dinner Mint, and it is my life and savior right now because I for the last 12 years have not bought a tub of ice cream. So in New Zealand, a tub is a big amount. Let me find the conversion. I just buy like the Ben and I think you guys call it a pint, like a Ben and Jerry's
A
standard.
pint, yeah.
I only buy like specialty pints of ice cream now because I only eat ice cream maybe once a month, and it's usually almost exclusively a caramel sundae from McDonald's.
I haven't bought any yet. It's too soon in my keto journey to, I mean, yes, I've been making this peanut butter protein chocolate chip cake thing, but that's because it's been a rough week. But normally, when I go back to low carb, I don't start on the sweets this early because I want as much weight loss as possible.
Four pints. This one's 4 pints. I haven't bought a
Okay, so
full
that's
pint.
like our gallon.
Okay, so I haven't bought a 4 pinter, but like unless it's for a party or something, because I only
Party,
eat ice
yeah.
cream like once a month. So like to have 4 pints, it would take me like 2 years to get through. So I don't buy it.
Well, like
But
if I buy a pint of ice cream normally, it's like two sitting, and I eat a. If I'm having a bad day, I'll eat the whole.
I'll usually eat a third to a half of a pint.
Yeah, mine is about a half. But I'm not a huge fan. Like I like when you first open ice cream. I don't like when you close it and put it back in the freezer and open it again. Like no matter how much of a seal there is, there's still crystallization that happens. I'm very much open it. Like that first open ice cream is my favorite.
That's why I like gelato because I find it doesn't happen as much. So I usually buy gelato from the
find me-
Italian. I go to the
Find
Italian
me a keto
import store.
gelato. Find me a keto gelato.
But this one is called After Dinner Mint, and I love it so much because I don't know if you can see.
I don't do mint ice cream, but okay.
It doesn't have chunks. It has like almost shavings of chocolate in it, so it doesn't have any crunch that will hurt my teeth.
Yeah.
So I still get the hint of chocolate without, but the mint is just so refreshing on my gum. I got dry socket on my right side, but then Ezra had buttered my left side, and you can
What
see
is it about men? And I know he's 4, but he's still a man. Men can't leave your face alone when you've had face surgery.
See how every female I know,
every female I know that has ever had her face messed with ends up a dude like messes with their face. Every single woman I know.
He was dive bombing me for a hug and kisses
and headbutted you.
Yeah,
it just happened. So, it's a mom thing too. I think like when I had my surgery, when I had my procedure done back in December, like I think it was within a day or two, Cameron had accidentally bumped into me or bumped me, and I went into the wall and just hit right where, and it was awful. It's like, why does that happen?
So I'm pretty happy to be chewing on fresh ice cream right now to dull my pain.
Yep, cold stuff. Okay, Tangent Squad, we interrupt our regularly scheduled fan fawning with some breaking news that must be discussed. Colin Bridgerton has been disrespected, and we cannot let this stand. We come out in solidarity for our sensitive brother and plan to discuss the tea. Today, we soapbox for the emotional maturity and healthy masculinity of one Mr. Colin Bridgerton. Let's do it.
Duck, duck, Luke, here we come.
Yes, our favorite duck, even though he looks like a swan, but he calls himself a duck.
He's a silly goose.
Are we making haste there after dinner mints?
I was gonna ask, do we do Ben's story at the end, don't we?
Oh, yeah, at the end.
Cool. I'm gonna put it into the notes so I remember to chuck it in before we do we do it after gentle listener? Yeah, because then
say like before, but thank you.
Or before Sarah story green, because it's just whoever does it.
Oh gosh, we must make haste
into today's episode. Patty's getting impatient.
Yeah, Patty is emotionally dysregulated anyway. Thank you, ADHD. And this came up this week, and I have to talk about it because I'm on the struggle bus, and something came to my attention on the TikTok. Let's Be For Real, who is was a year ago, a pollen shipper, but posted pretty much consistent Bridgerton content, and that's how I found her.
One moment, we need to backtrack. We completely skipped all pod news this week, and we have heaps of pod news.
This is the pod to kill him.
Okay, pod news is meant to be before my guys.
I know. Well, what pod news are we doing?
It's the year release, the year from the thing. We got the behind the scenes, new Julia Quinn books being released. Jonathan Bailey's in his sexy slut glasses era.
The slutty little glasses era.
The slutty little glasses era.
Okay, so well, and I wanted to talk about that season 4 wrap video. So we'll save that. But yes, we now know officially season 4 has wrapped. And I will say this, somebody specifically said today that it we felt an excruciating pain waiting for season 3 because we were all about it. But we're still in pollen delusion, so we barely noticed the time that went by for the filming of season
It is
4.
crazy to me that it has been a year.
I
How has it
know.
been a year? Like,
Yes. Oh, and happy anniversary
happy
to
anniversary,
us.
sweetie.
Yes. This day, today is actually the 21st of June that we're recording. And we recorded our first podcast together a year ago today. We recorded on the 21st of June last year in 2024.
And seeing as we are talking lovers today, happy shout out, happy anniversary to my husband. We have officially been together for 12 years now. I thought it was 13 and then I had to count and I was like, oh wait, I'm wrong.
Yeah, but if that's is that your getting together anniversary or your wedding anniversary? Aha. Yeah.
So because we were together for 5 years before we got married, I think it's ridiculous to just discount people. How long have you been together? Well, and how long have you been married? 7 years versus 12 is a very different number.
Very different. Yeah. It all counts, especially like if you lived with the person prior to the marriage, like that all counts. You were basic. So
we've never spent like short of work, bucks night, extenuating circumstances. We've never spent more than 2 nights apart, you know?
Right. Yeah. So that's the podcast. Then we have Jonathan Bailey. And I thought this was cute. Like they had the red carpet for Jurassic World or whatever it's called.
I love his relationship with people.
Yes. Scarlett Johansson. I can't
Skojo.
Walks up to him. She's so excited to see him, and then she does the hand game on his chest. Like they played it. Scarlett was like, I can get a higher number than Benedict and Eloise. She seems very competitive that way, but like he really does. And somebody pointed out like he has just as much chemistry with her as he does with Orlando Bloom, like in press pictures.
Yeah.
Like you could stand him next to a sack of potatoes and people would be wondering if he's with that sack of potatoes, I think.
People are having a whole relationship with his sexy little glasses right now. So
he literally has the chemistry with little glasses.
He has chemistry with inanimate objects.
Well, and I love glasses anyway. I love a man in glasses. So yeah. Yeah, I'm about glasses all day. And people wear glasses because it makes them look smarter. Yes, because that's sexy to me. Thank you, universe. I am grateful for slutty little glasses. I stan Luke Thompson in some glasses. I stan Luke Newton in some glasses.
Luke Newton glasses, chef's kiss.
Yeah. And I'm still trying to get people in my own life who talk about they had LASIK, but they talk about how they have to wear readers now because of their age. Bust those readers out, please. Like I want to see you in your readers.
I want to see you in your readers era.
I want the readers era. Yes. Let's see what else. Yes. Julia Quinn just announced that they are doing new covers for the books and they're going to start coming out in the fall. So for all of you who have already collected a collection, guess what? Here's another collection. And I'm now saying that Lord Fuller's whole house is nothing but the new incarnations of the Bridgerton books. His whole library, every book you pull down, it's like, seen this book before. It was over there, but with a different cover.
I get really jealous that other countries have different covers as well. The Polish cover is really beautiful. I see that they've just even expanded and they translated it into Mongolian, which the Mongolian people are going to have a huge win over there because what a book to get.
Yeah. And I saw this, it's not Bridgerton related, but it's adjacent. I saw the cutest TikTok with a book club where they were getting together reading Pride and Prejudice, and they posted a TikTok video and they all had different covers, different versions of the book. And it's like, it doesn't matter how you read it, just the fact that you read it. Like somebody had a really nice first edition or older hardcover. Yeah. Somebody had the paperback, somebody was using their e-reader, somebody was just reading it on their phone. Like just everybody, somebody had one that looked like they ordered it in high school, when you get the books that you're assigned to read in high school, and those are like the crappiest binded books ever.
Yeah.
But I really love that TikTok because that's the truth. Like certain books out there, it doesn't matter how you read it. It doesn't matter if you listen to it on an audiobook or what have you. It's just, and I just saw because, you know, Pride and Prejudice 2005 is 20 years old now. I saw a get together with Keira Knightley, and
I have a hack. My friend was saying on Spotify, you know how you get 15 free hours of downloads per month or listening per month. He said if you actually download the book, put it into your reading log or whatever, download it, the limit does not exist. But you have to download it to your phone.
Well, yeah, because you're downloading it.
The limit does not exist. There is no limit. Yep. I was like, how did I not know this? Oh my God, that's going to make so many people happy.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out the hack for I refuse to say the name of it because I'm not paying for it right now, but my audio listening app that I was using. And when you no longer pay for the subscription, you do not have access to the books that you paid for. They give you a credit every month and you can choose a book. And you can't listen to it when you're not paying for your subscription. But there was a way to download them and it never worked for me ever. It was annoying. I tried every like YouTube, TikTok, every tutorial. I could not get it to work. But that being said, it doesn't matter how you read the book, just read it. And all of you out there watching the show, read the books, like read them. And I'm not saying read them because then you're going to not like the show or whatever. Or you're going to understand why book readers are so up in arms or what have you. Just read the books. They're good. Julia Quinn does not mind you reading her work, her creative work. Shonda took it and brought it to the masses and everything, but Julia Quinn wrote it. Yeah. And she deserves the recognition for having created the characters and writing these books. They're really, actually, for historical fiction, and I've read quite a bit of historical romance
book character?
They're really good. Of all time?
No. In Bridgerton.
Or in Bridgerton. In the book, I'm going to have to say Eloise. Although I didn't like how her book ended. It was like she was just waiting around for somebody to want to wife her that stimulated her mind. I didn't like how her book ended, but all through as a character, I really liked her character. I really liked her friendship. And the friendship in the book between her and Penelope is actually more deep than it is on the show. It's very beautiful, to the point where Colin in the books would never think of coming between the two of them. They jokingly fight over Pen a little bit after Colin gets engaged to her, but it's all in fun. You can tell it's joking.
In jest,
in jest. But it's very sweet. Like he even says, like in his Colin monologues in the book, like he would never attempt to make Penelope choose sides between him and Eloise because he knows he would lose. He knows he would lose. Their friendship is way too deep. But in the book, they'd also been friends. Like in the show, I think they've been friends for about 7-ish years, 8 years by the time she's on the ton. When you think about like they met as children, but Edmund was already deceased because Penelope does not act like she knows him at all or, you know, ever met him. I'm assuming she came into play and met them after Edmund's death. And in the books, they had been friends for
16 years of age.
12 years.
Yeah.
12 years at that. Yeah. So, and they were like-minded for a long time about.
Hyacinth. Eloise there's a 6-year gap between Hyacinth and Eloise. 8.
Well, there's 5
Eloise
between
was a
Benedict and Colin.
Died.
And then Colin and Daphne are 18 months apart. Then Daphne and Eloise are a year to 18 months apart. And then Francesca is another 18 months. And then there's a solid gap, I think, of 5 years again. And then it's 4 years, I think. And then it's Hyacinth. And then Gregory,
Gregory and then Hyacinth.
And then Hyacinth, he was about 18 months when Hyacinth. So
it was like
there's 2 major gaps.
A big year, like a big gap between Edmund dying.
I just saw a recent thing that had all of their birthdays. And do you know, Francesca and Eloise were actually born on the same day, just a year apart.
When you're above.
And they don't even say the day. It's just in April.
I saw that.
But considering how they act, I'm calling it right now. It's later April because early April is Aries, and neither one of those girls is an Aries. They are definitely Tauruses. They are April Tauruses.
Was it Di who posted it in chat? The birthdays?
Maybe.
I feel like it was
I
Di.
just saw it recently, so
yeah, I did as well.
But I've been discombobulated all week. So how about you look it up and talk about it while I go
You-
get my
you-
dog fed
yeah.
and take these dishes right back. I'm also getting more water.
Okay, we found it. Hyacinth was born at 1803.
And Eloise is 96, so that's 7 years. I was pretty dead on.
Yeah, so
As I said, there was a 5-year gap between Francesca
yes.
and
Thank you, Maria,
then,
for sending that to the group. So because I was like, I know I've watched this, and Patty's like, well, I know I've watched this. So I'm like,
I've seen it recently.
like,
Yeah,
where have we both seen this morning? Well, for me, morning.
and we try and call out like how
Credit.
who we found on the interwebs and credit them. And I will say Maria posted it, but I can only see SER Edits on TikTok is who actually posted it. So giving credit where credit is due, but thank you, Maria, for
it was like
the resource.
It was like about a 10-year gap between Edmund dying and Penelope coming on the scene.
Yeah, in the book, I think it was like 8 years or something.
So Patty, it is officially time to make haste into talking about Colin.
Yes, and we're going to give Luke Newton and Colin Bridgerton their due because he's gotten this shaft. And I've said it before, like
Penelope got the shaft. I'm sorry.
Yes, but in the season of polyamory, Benedict wasn't the only one getting it as the shaft. So Colin just got it metaphorically.
Oh.
Colin got the shaft that's suitable for work. Suitable for polite society.
Okay, so today we are basically going to make this a Colin/Luke Appreciation Day because we believe that Luke Newton has been entirely overlooked this entire season, and a lot of people have downplayed, belittled, or just outright insulted his acting abilities over the season. And I think to those people, yes, there are some. Wigbert was a whole thing that was out of his control.
Well, and he didn't get the career boost from his season of Bridgerton that Johnny Bailey did, and everybody's comparing that. And
I think that's unfair.
There is a issue. Yes, there is an issue. I mean, there's an issue with our own mental health in comparison.
Yes,
but when we start comparing two other human beings whom we don't know, and I know, I mean, this isn't our livelihood, thank God. This is just a hobby. So we can say we're allowed to do it because it's just for fun. But when you compare two humans and their trajectories in life and you expect one person to, Luke is not only as Colin being asked to live up to his brother's reputations in the show, but then Luke Newton was expected to live up to, quote unquote, his brother's reputation in the real world, too. And he's not about that life. Well, I think that he's living the life he wants. He favors a holiday. He likes having the job he has. I don't think he's out for fame and riches and everything. And not that I think Johnny Bailey's out for that either. I just think he's riding the wave and loving life right now. But I think that Luke is kind of that dude that's like, hey, I'm making good money. I'm making good money. My bills are paid. And I get to spend the entire freaking summer in Greece or Italy or somewhere warm.
Cyprus.
Yeah, Cyprus. Like, he's living the life. He's got a pretty good life. And his name might not be in a lot of credits right now, but he has projects in the work. I saw a little snippet of the artwork, some of the artwork from that animated movie that's coming out at Christmas. And not only is it animated, but I think it's also done. Was it the Netherlands or Portugal? I think it was Portugal. So it has a chance. It has a chance and it's got original music. So, I mean, there's a chance that he could be involved in a project where he's walking an Oscars red carpet next year.
Well, I mean, even look at Flynn Rider.
It's anime.
Enchanted Flynn Rider. Like he was only a voice actor in that, but that absolutely skyrocketed him in Hollywood. I think the same thing could happen with Luke as well because he's got some amazing pipes on him.
Yeah, but I like this one is more artsy. It's not so much Disney. Like Disney has a formula and they do it well, but this is like an independent studio. It's like
I'm a Pixar fan.
yeah, and well, and that's computer animation. This to me looks like it's art. Like it might be done some on computers, but there's still active drawing involved with it. Like I saw a little snippet of it on TikTok, and it's
Studio Ghibli do the same, which is a Japanese animation studio. Basically, Japan's Disney. They do everything by hand, and to me, it has so much heart and soul in it because of that.
Yes.
And that screams to me Luke Newton. And what I wanted to say earlier is that I think it's really, really unfair to try and compare Luke Newton with Johnny Bailey because they are entirely different personalities. And I think we also have to acknowledge sometimes that sometimes people in Hollywood have exactly the career that they want / can handle. So
yeah,
Luke Newton
they're both choosing their career. I don't think that Luke is necessarily being snubbed. I think he's being choosy.
Yes, I
think he's been offered things and he's turned them down.
I think that Luke has ADHD, and I think that I think he would find the career path of Johnny Bailey really overwhelmingly exhausting because, I mean, look at even the difference between you and me is sometimes I keep a really unhealthy pace for my own life, and you're like, Tash, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. I book myself too much.
Right. Like, and I've been you. Like, I know what that life. I mean, I'm in burnout right now. Like I've been doing way too much and not taking enough downtime and I feel it. And as a neurodivergent person also, the burnout is very real and I actually commend him for taking the rest time and taking the time to have a good transition between projects. And he's choosing really good projects because if anybody has had a chance to see the shape of things, like we still don't have a platform that plays it in America. I had to get snippets. I had to see it in, I think, 6 parts on TikTok. 6 or 8 parts because the longest video is 10 minutes, and some beautiful person who I don't remember anymore did all the hard yards and separated it out and got it on TikTok so those of us outside of the UK could see his work, and he was phenomenal in it, to the point that some reshoots were done because people who did that stuff. And this is where be very careful about what you say in a presser. That's all I'm saying, because there's those of us who never forget, and we catch the little thing. And for people to say, I didn't know how to write his character, I wasn't sure if he'd be able to handle comedy until I saw the shape of things. Like they went back and they rewrote stuff because they realized he had a talent that had gone untapped up to this point, even though he's been sarcastically funny and has been given such great one. How they've not seen his timing?
Yes.
I mean, his did somebody die? Like is so perfectly given. And his facial expression is perfection in that moment. Like, no, somebody's going to at
Why
dawn,
are you making me want to go back and rewatch season 2? Because it's my least watched season, but there's actually so much Luke comedy gold in that season, especially between the two Lukes.
Nuptials?
Between the two Lukes, those scenes are some of my favorites.
Now, I love after everything's all messed up and Anthony is nowhere to be found and Violet doesn't know where he is. He says like maybe he's still at the altar waiting for Edwina. Like he's so snarkily delicious.
I think that Colin lived for the fact that his brother
was
up
effing up
monumentally because he's like, well done. I'm not the disappointment. You really did that.
Well, that's because Anthony was so hard on him and was so condescending to him.
About
like
Marina.
It was his comeuppance.
That was his redemption arc.
He lived in that. He lived in that so long. He loved that moment.
I think that's why it brought up the feelings about Marina and needing closure, is because he just watched his brother go through the same thing.
Well, no, Marina came before.
I know, but like the whole nearly marrying the wrong person. I think everyone in the family could see that it was the wrong person.
But I don't think that I think Anthony was keeping her quiet, but Violet found out about her, which became the thing in season 1. Like, and I think Benedict knew the extent of it. I don't think Colin did, because he walked his own wife up into the love shack like, oh, it's been in the family for years. Like, I don't think he knew who or what Sienna was. He just, like, I don't think he realized.
I meant Marie. Edwina.
Oh, again, like, him going to see Marina occurred while he was getting to know Edwina. It was not, he hadn't even proposed yet. So he just went to see Marina because he is a good man. And
I need to refresh my brain about season 2.
Yeah, because he went to, when he announced that he was going to see Marina was when Penelope showed up for the country.
Yeah.
The country ball, and Edwina and Kate had already been there for an entire day or two or something like that at that point. And he announced he was going to go see Marina because he just found out from Eloise that the Crane estate was really close when Benedict was admitted into the academy or whatever.
Speaking of Benedict, so what I am, this sounds weird. What I'm excited,
Luke Newton is out there in the world listening to this when this finally airs. Like, I thought this episode was about me.
No, it is about him. So what I was going to say is I'm actually really excited for Benedict's season because I think it's actually going to be a redemption for Colin in the fact that I don't think that Benedict is going to get the fanfare that Johnny Bailey has. Sorry, I don't think that Luke Thompson is going to get the fanfare that Johnny Bailey has either, because Johnny Bailey is go, 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 go. Very in everything, fingers in all the pies. He loves people. I think that is why Nicola Coughlan also exceeds, because Hollywood knows that genuinely kind, warm, honest people are rare. And so when they're extroverts and this kind of person, they're like, yes, give us all of it. Whereas Luke squared are both far more introverted. And they are both off of social media. And social media is huge in getting people rolled. And because they're not in the limelight all the time, the way that Johnny Bailey is, I think that it's going to have a very similar career trajectory for Luke Thompson. And so I think that that's going to have a huge kind of sigh of relief for Luke Newton to be like, oh, it's not just me. It's just that we are different people. And I think...
Well, I don't think there's a question, because...
No, Luke I think Thompson he just wants people to stop comparing.
Yes, Luke Thompson has been one of the favorite characters since season 1.
Yes.
And he's not really done a lot of screen work. No. He does theater work.
Yes.
I mean, he's done theater work even while being a lead in his season.
Yes.
There is a theater there where guest actors show up for the week. It's kind of like the Saturday Night Live of theater. Like, they show up and they act for a week and they perform a couple shows and then they're done or whatever. I don't know the name of the theater, but I know he recently did it because I just saw it. But he did this during his lead season.
Yeah.
And
busy people.
Yeah. You know, I mean, he wanted to act along with a friend that was there, I think, is why he did it. But, and who knows, it might have been, Netflix might have used it as well. But like,
he's scheduled to appear in Tim Crunch's An Oak Tree at the Young Vic Theatre in London from May 6th till the 17th of this year. So it's already been by
that's got to be what it was.
Francesca Moody Production.
That's got to be what it is.
Francesca's about to be moody.
But I think that we can see, and nobody vilifies Luke Thompson for this, we can see that what his career choices are. He is a stage actor. He loves the stage, right? But Luke Newton thought he was going to be a stage actor, found that he loved film. He loved acting for the screen. And I think because of that transition, he still is kind of finding his place. Whereas Johnny Bailey, since being a child...
No, that's not how this marriage works.
I
still have an hour of recording to go. That's not nice. Don't wave at me. He's going to Bunnings without me.
Well, we did talk for an hour and a half.
No, but that is sacrilegious. Some couples aren't allowed to watch TV shows without each other. You're not allowed to go to Bunnings without me. That's just rude.
He better bring you back something good.
well, I already had a double coffee and I can't chew anything. So that's
They don't have anything soft like a pudding or
no,
some
but
little soft
I
cheesecakey
think they
dessert.
would fall off their chair if I ordered something out of my norm there. They'd be like, that's not your wife's order. You're doing it wrong, sir. And he'd be like, no, she can't chew it. And they'd be like, no, but that's not your wife's order, sir. What are you doing? I
You're like,
am.
and where is she? Do you have her in a basement? There's no way
Bye
she would
bye,
not
Ezra
walk through the
Michael.
there's no way she would not walk through that door with you. What have you done with her?
Like, are you here to get are you here to get duct tape
A
a
shovel?
shovel and some tarps? Like, what are you doing here?
That is priceless.
Oh,
And
actually,
then you end up on a
I
true crime podcast.
Steven, you get me some tris one bag.
I
I'm gonna put
just
him to
had
work.
I just had the most amazing idea for
Citrus
a,
pudding mix?
you know, no, you know how they do those podcasts that are like stories and they don't last forever. They're just episodic till the story's done and then the podcast is over.
No.
Yeah, they just did one for Anna Green Gables.
I
Look it up. There's an Anna Green Gables with like Glenn Close.
Oh, I haven't watched the
And
anime yet. I need to do that.
I haven't either.
Thank you for reminding me.
I haven't either, but they did a podcast of a reading of Anna Green Gables or the script of Anna Green Gables or something like that, and it was different celebrities. It was a reimagining.
This is such
And
a
it was
bad
actually
anniversary weekend. Bunnings without me. I'm hurt.
it was directed by Megan Follows, who was the Anne from the version that I love the most from my childhood.
Yeah.
So they do that. They do these episodic podcasts that don't last forever. They're just say 6 to 8 episodes. They get through a story and then they're done. There needs to be it's a true crime podcast and it is about deep diving into the murder of this woman and going through who all the suspects might be, going through who whatever, kind of like the Lovely Bones where you find out the narrator is actually the girl who dies at the end. The podcast narrator is the person who died and her friend had this podcast the whole time. She knew what her husband was planning the whole time and recorded a podcast and her friend published it after her death.
It was incredible.
That would be an awesome podcast. I just made that up.
Yeah, but someone has to die for this up. So
no, somebody doesn't have to die. It's fictional.
For
kind of like War of the Worlds.
For no. I want to talk about it, but I need to stay on point. Okay, season 1, Luke Newton. Colin. Season 1, Colin.
Yes.
Featuring
Okay.
Luke
So
Newton.
let me set the scene since we're at this point. We've gotten through a lot of what Luke Newton has gone through with season 3 in his career and the kind of things people have talked about.
Yeah.
The whole reason we're all up in arms is because this TikToker, let's be for real, posted a TikTok that turned me on to this podcast called Smosh Mouth, where they did a whole episode called Let's Guess the Plot. And it's talking about season 3 of Bridgerton because it's now a year past. And not everybody on the podcast, I guess, watched it or whatever. But one of the podcasters said that they didn't like Colin's character, that he was cringe, that this brother was cringe, and that so it turned her off to this season or whatever. And I had a moment because I don't think that Colin's character is cringe. I do think that Colin's character, they struggled to write him. They were open about that in press tour, that they struggled to write his character in the book. A lot of what occurred in the story actually occurred in Colin's mind. Like it wasn't actual dialogue or action. It was monologue, inner monologue.
Colin is one of the characters that we get to see such a snapshot into his mind by his diary, which is kind of crazy because that was actually meant to be more Eloise in the book. She was the journaler and the writer, but
she was the personal journaler.
Yeah.
He was the writer. He wrote about his travels and he did it in such a way that Penelope felt like she was there with him and she encouraged him. And I think these are the few changes that they made from book to show that hurt the public's understanding of Colin
Yeah.
Bridgerton as a character.
Because they gave him other people's characters and they gave his character to Benedict, then it kind of muddled the waters a fair bit.
Yes, show Benedict minus the polyamory,
Mm-hmm.
the charm, the lopsided smile, the being able to say anything cheeky and get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
That is book Colin. That is Colin's character from the book. So they did know how to write Colin. The problem is that they had already written it for Benedict, so they didn't know what to do with Colin when it came to his season because they'd already written everything about him into Benedict.
I must say, like, I do really, really wish that they gave him more of an easy, natural, flirtatious style rather than this, oh, hello, women. Oh, you are looking mighty fine today. Oh, you are such grace from beauty. You know, like that's.
No, I think it was perfect.
It was purposeful.
It was purposeful and it was meant to be cringe. And I don't mean cringe like
no.
This podcaster was saying he was cringe from season 1. I don't think he was cringe from season 1. I think he was cringe at the beginning of season 3 because he was hurt by the woman he loved.
19-year-old boy. I don't know a single 19-year-old boy. Like, I mean, my cousins
knows who he is exactly.
My cousins are in that age range. So I've got my very youngest cousins are 14 and 16, and then their older brothers are 21 and 25, I think. And like they are so cringe. I love them so dearly, but they are so cringe. And they are just little boys to me.
And I think for anyone, not just boys, I think for anyone at that age, you do not know who you are at the time. There are parts of you that are authentic and genuine, and those are not going to change in the whole trajectory of your life. And like, I'm a big feeler.
If they had the actual actors,
I love Broadway.
if we had the actors playing the ages that they actually are in the show, I think we would associate them a little bit better with the emotional immaturity that they're going through. Yeah. But because we've got Luke Newton, who is a 33-year-old man, started at 30.
He's 32 now.
32-year-old man playing a 21-year-old. We don't, he looks like a fully grown man. And so we associate it differently. Same as in the Harry Potter books. They were meant to be 21 years old when they died, but they had 35-year-old actors playing them. And so because children couldn't fathom parents dying at 21 years old.
And granted, kids grew up faster back then than they do now.
But not that fast. They still have
not
their
maturity.
Their brains aren't developed. Like, physically speaking, their amygdalas are not developed. Look at the impulsivity that they all go through because they are still boys. They are boys to men. Like, they...
Yeah, like... And I think that of the brothers, considering the age, like, I think that Johnny Bailey and Luke Thompson lucked out because they kept those characters the same age, right?
Yes.
But because they want to do an episode every 2 years or what have you, they had to have Luke/Colin marry at a younger age than he does in the books. And the reason their story plays the way it does so well in the book is because they are older. Because he is 33 and she is 28. She is legitimately officially that year for a year has been a spinster on the shelf. She is no longer expected to do the things to try and catch a husband. As of the age of 27, a woman can bow out, and she did because she was in love with Colin Bridgerton, and come heck or high water, she had no belief system that she would ever get him as a husband, but she was not going to put another man through a marriage with her when she loves somebody else. That was her character in the book.
Yes.
And so she held this torch all this time. And that whole torch thing doesn't play out when you're 19 years old in the show.
No.
And I hate this line from the show when she's trying to make it up to Eloise and she throws away Eloise
bothered me so much. Just a crush.
Eloise doesn't want to come in between them, and she goes, "Oh, that was just a crush that turned into something over time." No, it wasn't.
It belittled what it was.
And not only did they belittle Penelope's true love for a person for years and years and years.
Yes.
It also it made her career as Whistledown, like her soul. She is such a complex character and so deep as a character in the show. And that line kind of ruined it for me.
I was going to
Almost
say
like
it
I
felt
love you,
it
Penelope. I
felt like
love
a
you, Nicola
lie.
Coughlin. But
And
that line,
I
yes,
didn't
it
like her
felt like
lying to her friend.
it felt like a placation. Like she was
Yes.
placating
Yeah.
Eloise because she was so desperate to reconnect
Yes.
that she gave what she thought it downplayed. She knew she was not responsible for Eloise's feelings, and Eloise had to go through her own thing. But instead of just acknowledging that, she tried to placate and
I think that Colin,
throw away the whole fight they had in a way. Like she tried to turn it into Eloise being jealous, and
yeah,
Eloise was not jealous.
not over
Eloise was
that.
not jealous.
Not over
No,
that.
Eloise was going through her own personal journey about her own responsibility in her own life.
I mean, she did
That
have that
line,
moment of
that
jealousy
line was
where
so.
she thought that Penelope was using her to get close to Colin all the time, but that was just a protective.
That was
That was
armor.
that
That
was
was projection.
that was so Eloise is someone who has always had Penelope as a sounding board to be able to muse out her feelings with, and so she is an external processor, and she's lost her ability to externally process until she comes across Cressida, and then Cressida doesn't really allow her to externally process in the same way because she's got her own things going on in her world, and
Because
Penelope,
she mirrors it back to her.
and Eloise is not used to not being someone's priority. And so that's where that jealousy kind of comes from, is it's more
Well,
so
and I
an
think
insecurity than a jealousy.
and we're going to do an episode about the Lady Whistledown dilemma because they're choosing to keep Lady Whistledown slash Penelope Bridgerton's column ongoing when in the book she set it aside for Colin and she became an actual writer, no longer a gossip sheet author. She becomes a writer. She starts writing a book in the books. But and she sets aside Whistledown for because she got married, which at the time a woman would do that. And there's some plot holes and there's some conflicts that are going to happen if they continue her being a working woman and having this column that we're going to discuss. But I think that Penelope has a reckoning and she went through it in her season because this was not Colin Bridgerton's season, this where she had both of the people who knew her the best of anyone, that because she kept this from them this whole time, they had to go through the arc of, can I still trust her? She kept this from me. I thought we talked about everything. I thought we knew everything about each other. She knew everything about me. I did not know everything about her. And they questioned the entire friendship that was the basis of their relationships, both of them different, but similar in how deep they were. And they both went through that. But we saw Colin go through it a heck of a lot more than we saw Eloise go through it. Eloise went through it in a very different way, but we saw little snippets of it, like with the were you just friends with me to get to my brother, that kind of thing. Nobody questioned her. Nobody said she was gross and she was cringe and she was, I mean, people were like, Eloise is a brat and needs to get over herself.
Yeah.
But nobody questioned her having to go through this and having that moment of distrust and having to come back to trust for Penelope. They saw it in a much more, I think people treated it in a much more healthy way than they ever did about Colin having to reconnect with his wife. Like, he had to reconnect with her. He had to find trust again to be able to have that kind of intimate relationship. And I can't wait till we get into the second half because so many people struggle with the second half.
Yeah.
And I've come to love the second half because I really looked at Luke Newton and how he played Colin in that second half.
But before we get into that second half, I wanna kind of start from the start and talk about Luke Newton's progression as Colin from season 1.
Yeah, I laid the basis and then immediately went into my soapbox because I'm so mad about this. I'm not even gonna lie.
I know, but like season 1, I feel like
he's not cringe.
No, he's not. And I think he's actually a beautifully laid character. And we will get into it a little bit further down the line. But basically, the gist of it is that people are so used to seeing toxic masculinity in Hollywood that we don't understand emotional maturity and emotional growth when we see it. And I think that we are taking for granted the ages that they are. Yes, it's a different time period where they were expected to mature at a much rapidly advanced rate, but at the same time, their brains are not developed. We can only expect so much from them at this age. So looking at season 1, Colin, we have a young boy who has no purpose as of yet, but he's also so freshly out of potentially Eden or Oxford,
It was Eton.
maybe.
He was back from Eton. They say it. It's a little line in like one of the first episodes.
Yeah, and it's crazy that he didn't go to Eden because he would have actually been expected to go to Eden. Sorry, to
He did.
Oxford. Sorry, Oxford.
Yeah.
He would have because he's still a second backup. Unlikely, but he still had to have the study under his belt in order to be able to take over if he had to. Because I mean, it is the 1800s, and to lose two brothers isn't unheard of. So he would
Well, and
have
he
been
is,
expected.
but it would have been his choice too. And in the books, he did go to Oxford, and I think that they just left that as a plot hole
They
rather
couldn't.
than
They couldn't
explore it.
fit it in with the timeline that they created with them getting married so much
Correct.
sooner. Because I think from season one they had
And they changed it to
from
he
season
went to the
one,
College of Life. He
but
traveled. Yeah.
from season one, I think that Chris Van Dusen knew the entire time that it was never going to be 28 years of age when they got married. He knew it was going to be
Mhm.
a much faster timeline, and so therefore he had to kind of skip Colin's life progression a little bit and succinct it down to a very small 2-year period.
Well, and I think it's worth discussing. I mean, we weren't in the room, neither one of us. We were not flies on the wall. But
Excuse
when
me,
you
yes, I
have
was. You don't know my story.
when you have a regime change, when
Yeah.
you have a change in the perspective of how a character should develop, which we had that when Chris Van Dusen left and Jess Brownell came in. We
Yeah.
already know that there was a difference of opinion from her
Hmm.
own interviews where she said she had been advocating for Francesca to be a queer character from
From
season one.
season one.
So if she was advocating for that, if
Correct me
she
if I'm
was,
wrong. Chris Van Dusen is married to a male. He's married with
you look that
kids.
up. I have no idea about that man's life. Anyways, if Jess Brownell had to advocate for this change from the books into the show, that means that somebody
Yes.
was not planning on doing that.
Brian Van Dusen, and they've got 3 daughters.
Okay. So if she's advocating for something, that tells us that that's not the original plan, right? That's not the original thought process, and that there were some back and forth. There was at least somebody on the creative team, the people who shaped the show, who was against it. For her to have to advocate for it, somebody had to be against it.
Yeah.
And Chris Van Dusen left. I'm not necessarily speculating that they had some big ass drama thing and whatever. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think that we do see a change. There's a lot of plot holes, I think, that show there was a difference in how he was going to shape the series compared to what she decided to do.
Yes.
And she even said in one of the interviews from the press tour last year that she was kind of, or no, she didn't say it. I read it in somebody who reviewed the season, that it felt like a soft launch for a rebrand of the show.
Yes.
It did not have the same feel as the first 2 seasons, which even though season 1 to season 2 were both very different, and a lot of people were upset about the changes in season 2 from the book, that season 3 felt completely different. And that happens sometimes when you change out a top creative person. And I think one of the biggest plot holes that, really I've not heard too many people talk about is the fact that it was just accepted in season 3 that Penelope would need Colin's help and need all this help and these lessons, him helping her doing these lessons and being that person stepping up for her because she has no male relative, when neither Kate nor Edwina had a male relative that was escorting them out, that would negotiate the marriage contract.
Even more sense for it to be would have made even more sense for it to be Lady D, because she'd already done that for Edwina and Kate.
Yeah, but Lady D is not a male relative, regardless.
No, but she's actually influential in the ton, whereas Colin isn't, because he's a second son.
She cannot sit in a study or in White's or anywhere men do business and negotiate a marriage contract. She is a female. It cannot happen. They would have had to go before the queen, and those two did not. They danced at that last ball. Edwina had ingratiated herself to the queen, and the queen saved their reputations because Edwina was nice.
Yeah.
They never went to the queen. They never pleaded their case. They're the only couple so far well, no, I mean, I expected Colin and Penelope to have to plead their case. Penelope did have to plead her case kind of in front of everyone.
Yeah.
But Anthony and Kate never had to plead their case to the queen. They just got to get married. But nobody talks about the fact that she had no male relative, because Lord Sheffield or Mr. Sheffield, Lord whatever his title was Edwina's relative, not
Yeah.
Kate's.
Yeah.
So that made that difficult. And the fact that she didn't have a dowry or anything like that probably made it easier for Anthony to just marry her. And that's why they didn't have a wedding. They had a small, intimate wedding. You can tell by the way they talk about it. It was not a big affair. And everybody's so up in arms that we didn't get to see their wedding. But that's why we didn't, because he married somebody that at his stature he should not have married.
Yes.
And with everything that happened. But nobody wants to talk about the fact that she didn't have a male relative, neither did Edwina, yet she miraculously got engaged. And when everything fell apart, they could have just announced that because she didn't have a male relative willing to own her, because the Sheffields had disowned Mary.
Yeah.
They would have to sponsor Edwina to be able to do the marriage contract. They could have easily announced that the reason that the marriage dissolved was they could not legally get a binding marriage contract because there was no male relative. It was an easy out. They totally flubbed it. I mean, they got the story they wanted, and it's a beautiful story, but it makes no sense in season 3 why it's such a big deal that Penelope does not have a real male relative. She's got to, and her mother has to do everything.
Yeah. And despite the fact that, I mean, we don't know what either of the brothers' titles are, whether they're second son, third son, we can presume that
they're
they
misters, which means they're misters, which means they're at least second, third, fourth, whatever.
That's what I'm saying. Like we can make the assumption that they are not going to be the titled sons
because we already looked it up in a previous podcast that the heir is already called Lord.
Lord, yes.
The seconds and the thirds are misters. Yeah, the seconds and the thirds are misters.
But I still think even with just being misters, they still would have held more weight just because of what's between their legs than Portia, despite the fact that she is lady, because Mr. trumps lady.
Well, yes, but Portia should not have been the person negotiating Penelope. I mean, as the mother, she what's the word, shepherds her through the marriage mark.
Yes,
but in the end, and Penelope told Debling to ask her mother, because she had no other idea of what to do.
He didn't know how to proceed because it wasn't the done thing.
Right. He was confused about how to proceed.
But I think that is why he could get himself a really good deal, because he's dealing with just a simple female, and it's going to be a much easier time getting what he wants out of that scenario.
Yeah, that was the whole point. He wanted an estate manager. He didn't want a wife.
Yeah.
That's why he chose a person that was in that kind of predicament. I'm telling you.
All right, let's get back to Colin.
Anyways, back to,
Season 1 Colin.
But I think season 1 Colin is the vision of Chris Van Dusen and the creatives at the time, who are executive producers. We need to remember that. And I think he knew personally, I think his idea was to forego the whole Colin didn't know he had feelings for Penelope until,
I think he was going to play it that Colin knew much sooner.
Had loved her the whole time.
Yeah.
Yes, because we know in season 3 that Jess Brownell was going to play Colin as a virgin, that he had waited, and Shonda Rhimes changed that because, she likes a reformed Drake too. So we got brothel scenes.
Let's talk about that part, because you made some really excellent points in our chat the other day about what society expects a good romance to look like, the reform Rake's part.
Yes, I think that most of us women who are the main consumers of romance, have struggled, especially my generation. We have a lot of emotionally men in our generation. We were not raised, even the women were not raised that our feelings were valid and okay. But the men in our lives tend to be a certain way that and I think every human has something about a person they love that they wish they could change. And most of in the greatest romances and the greatest loves and the greatest relationships, it's minor, it's small. It's like, could you please not lift the blanket when you fart in bed? You know what I mean? Like, it's something minor. But there are a lot of women that and a lot of men that get with a toxic partner and they just stay with them and stay with them and stay with them and hope that they love them enough that they'll change for them. And that's why I think that most romances are usually a woman gets with a kind of, I don't want to say douchey, but a morally gray man. Or I mean, in some television shows, he's the literal devil, Lucifer, talking about you. And
I
the
will choose
woman,
Lucifer all day long.
the love of a woman caused a man to change himself. And I think that there was not enough of that, that Shonda added, one of the brothel scenes added to kind of dirty Colin's character a little bit, to give him a little more grit as a male, because we don't know how to receive, and emotionally mature, in tune with his emotions, understanding, like, he struggled with finding his purpose, but I think Colin Bridgerton knew who he was, and they roughed him up a little bit to make him more palatable for the mass, forgetting that there are some of us that just want to see a good guy who knows he's a good guy be a good guy for a girl. And ultimately, in the end, a lot of people talk about how Colin didn't make a big show of it, but he changed for Penelope. And I don't think he changed all that much. I think he just was like, you know what? You embody physically these ideas I've always had. I championed Daphne in season 1. He championed her taking control of her own life and going and stopping the duel. He championed Eloise, bringing her the book as a gift about, feminist ideas. Like, he championed women. He championed them being in control of their own lives in this time frame. And then he was struck with it in a very real way. It's like having a thought process, having an ideology, and then having to live it and coming up against it like, oh, this is how it works in real life. Can I truly accept it? And I think he needed a little bit of time, but he's like, yeah, she is smart. She is brave. She is bold. She is amazing. I love her and I want her to have everything she wants out of life. She deserves it just as much as me. And the only change he made was not really a change. It was the decision to physically and in an actionable way live the belief system that he himself had supported for now 3 full seasons that we've seen Colin Bridgerton. He has always been a champion of women. But he just went through a little period of time where he's like, wait, my wife wants to work. I need to sit with that for a minute, but in the end, he's like, yeah, she should be able to do that if she wants. Why can't she? I love her. I don't view her as better than me or less than me. We're partners, we're equals. And I think they missed that Colin as a team thing that they could have included in that would have made it like so much better. All we needed was a scene of them writing the book together. Just show me a scene of her little pregger's belly and the writer's desk in the bed and them working on his book together, instead of him giving her all the freaking credit in the epilogue and making it seem like he can't do anything without Penelope. You're just sitting there like, man, Patty's on a soapbox back. And
I put my hand up 5 minutes ago.
I'm like, sorry, I'm very passionate.
So
I warned you before we started.
I'm trying to remember my thing I put my hand up for.
Season 1, Colin.
No, it was...
Oh, what, you put your hand up?
The thing that I wanted to talk about is I think that on the internet, especially at the moment, we have a whole bunch of male influencers who I absolutely adore because they are highlighting a very real issue in society. And I feel like Colin is such a beautiful embodiment of kind of what they're talking about. So we've got a whole bunch of them. We've got the green flags guy and red flags guy, Austin, someone. Just type in green flags guy, red flags guy, it'll come up. But he basically highlights really toxic male behaviors of like men belittling their wives, toxic mother-in-laws. And then he also highlights when males are doing things that are healthy in a relationship and how the wives respond to that and how they have these really healthy marriages because of this reciprocal partnership. And it is a partnership, not women being the non-biological mothers to their husband. And so I think Colin, the way that Chris Van Dusen started him in season 1 is trying to be a more heightened, emotionally mature man. But at the same time, he's 19 and he is growing into it. I love the fact that we got season 3 Colin, who could cry, who could
Mhm.
share that his feelings were hurt without yelling,
Yes.
that took time to separate himself to figure out what he needed to instead of resorting to yelling. Yes, it was really hard for us to watch them being separated, for him to be sleeping on the couch, for you could see the longing that he had for his wife. Like, I want things to be better. And I think in a marriage, every person has been through this feeling of you've come to a hurdle and you just want to skip to the better part. But if you don't actually take the time to overcome the hurdles, it's not actually going to be better. It's going to put a band-aid on it
Mhm.
and then it's going to blow up in your face. He actually took the time to sort out his feelings without resorting to going out drinking, to going out philandering about town, even though the Lord Squad tried, without yelling at
In
his
a
wife.
deleted scene, but it is now canon.
It's canon. It's out there. It's in the world
It's out there.
somewhere. So, like, I think that we really need to. I love that we are now coming into awareness of what a partnership should look like. And marriages should not look any set way. And there is no such thing as a perfect marriage. Even my own marriage is not perfect. He goes to Bunnings without me and hurts my feelings.
Well, and let's look at, okay, in season 1, we have an emotionally avoidant man
Mhm.
who goes into a fake relationship to avoid having to deal with courtship, finding he has true feelings for someone. And what does he do? Typical emotional avoidant. He backtracks. We can't do this anymore. He takes off. But then he watches her because in that time period, women, every little thing slights them, right? And so she goes out there like, I got to find me someone else, you know? And then he's jealous and I mean, every part, everything they go through is toxicity and people love it. People love the passion. It's passion. I've seen so much on the internet about how season 1, Daphne and Simon, is passion.
But they weren't healthy by
It
any
wasn't
means.
healthy. Season 2, oh, passion. They wanted each other so much and they were fighting it. It's passion. Also
I
toxic.
think what I see this with some of my friends as well. And girls saying, I don't want stable. I want to fight. What Nick and Jess, and I don't remember his name, but he was the really hot elder guy that she dates, and he is super, super wealthy and
On New Girl.
a new girl.
Okay, let's give a title so everybody knows what we're talking about.
And Russell is played by what's his name? Love the actor. He's
Dermot Mulroney,
Maroney, chef's kiss of a man. Let me just say.
the guy from My Best Friend.
My best friend's wedding. I was gonna say he's a Julia. But so he talks about how him and his wife separated, and Jessica is trying to like sort out between their marriage that they're not fighting and that the kid can get along and everything. And she's like, you guys have insane chemistry, and him and Jess end up breaking up because she wants that. She wants the fighting. She wants the chemistry. And he says, I don't want that. You say that we have this chemistry, but it's exhausting. It's explosive and you never know where you stand with someone. And yes, the highs are amazing, but the lows are so low. And I think a lot of people have been in that fight or flight mode for so long that because the lows are so low, when you get a high, even if it's only a mid high, it feels like you are sky high because the lows are so low
Yeah.
that it is such a drastic change.
And you were talking about the green flags guy. There's a few people that I watch, Jimmy on relationships,
Yes,
on
yes, he's
YouTube.
amazing. Yeah.
He's amazing. Mended Light on YouTube. It's a couple. They actually recently got divorced, but it was the most amicable divorce I've ever seen in my life that they've talked about it.
Dustin Pointer. Dustin, not Austin. I was close. Dustin.
You were close. But they actually, well, I don't know if it's on a different channel that he does it, but he therapizes television shows, movies, and he's therapized Bridgerton.
Mm-hmm.
And he calls out toxicity. But I think that so many of us have been through toxic relationships or traumatic childhoods that we've come to confuse the butterflies, that zing that we feel in our the zing we feel in our bodies when we meet someone and we have that initial like for them or that interest as quote unquote chemistry. But there's something to be said. And I'll be the first one to admit, here I am therapizing myself again on this podcast. When I met Smaug, I struggled with the fact that when he and I were together in a room, even now, when he and I are together in a room, I am no longer pandemonium Patty. I mean, there's still a little pandemonium in there all the time, but
I was like,
I'm
you
a
can't
much
take the
calmer.
pandemonium out of the girl.
No, I am a much calmer person when we are together.
Stephen comes.
He co-regulate. I mean, there's a term called co-regulation. Your best relationships are a couple that can co-regulate each other without acknowledging that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's how it feels when I'm in a room with him. Like my whole week this week that I've been so dysregulated, and who knows, it could be the moon, it can be whatever. I mean, just hearing about this Colin Bridgerton stuff, who knows? It could, I mean, there's a lot going on that has dysregulated me. And honestly, I would love to have just a 5 minute in a room with, like, we're not, he lives in a completely different state. So it's not possible, but 5 minutes where I can not feel like I'm attuning all the time, because that's what it feels like inside my body. I feel like a tuning fork that somebody banged against a desk all the time. And I think that people have forgotten that the true partnerships that are going to last are the really deep friendships that they make each other better people.
Well, and that's what we're seeing.
I'll say what I'm going to say about Kate and Anthony, because
I was going to say, yeah.
We are seeing a much calmer Anthony. We are seeing a much happier Anthony, but we are seeing two people who are going down a toxic path together, running away from their responsibility, running to India when they have the heir in her womb. They could all die in a shipwreck. It happened a lot then. Like, they were making very impulsive and irresponsible choices because they're in this.
Because it was just for filming purposes and not the true personalities.
Yes, but as an example in this, like, they started out in a toxic way, and there's still a little toxicity that they have to work through, but they are ultimately making each other better people. They're just, their path is going to be a little bit longer than Penelope and Colin's is, because Colin and Penelope have a basis of friendship that they've had for a long time.
And they're both very emotionally, and, like, I mean,
aware.
Very, very, very aware. Like, Penelope has, I think that one of their biggest hurdles is actually going to be Penelope putting in her boundaries. And we already saw this in part 2. Penelope putting in her boundaries and learning to stand up for herself. And as someone who has done that this year, even though people love you, when you start putting in boundaries, they have a really hard time adjusting to the new you. And it actually, it will enhance your friendship, because instead of you always putting your own needs aside for their needs, it's actually more balanced. But they're so used to you putting in the 80% and then putting in 20 that when it's 50-50, they're like, oh, I don't like this, you know. But if you're a healing codependent, setting those boundaries also feels awkward for you. Me, so hard.
I feel like the bad guy all the time.
Yes.
I feel like I hate when people are mad at me. I sit in real discomfort when I think somebody is mad at me. And
I've learned to be like, you know what? That's their problem. I put in my boundary.
And half of our friendship, the parts people do not see, and this is a reason I love our chat with Kay, and I love the two of you with all of my heart, because the three of us spend whole days where Bridgerton doesn't even get mentioned. Yeah. We are just talking about the things that make our life hard, and the things we're working through as we're growing as humans. And we just encourage each other and cheer each other on.
You guys have put up with an entire week of me whining about the fact that I can't taste food. I'm a almost fat girl who can't taste food. It's sad.
I'm like, and that would suck for me too as a fat girl. I would hate that all day.
It's so depressing.
And I'm not going to give out people's business, but I did
healthy relationship goals right here. I just received a text message. I couldn't cheat on you. I went to Mitre 10 instead of Bunnings.
Good job, Stephen. Good job.
Love you too.
He couldn't do it. That's like Penelope. If it was modern day, Penelope gets it. Okay, I couldn't go to the brothel. I couldn't do it. I got to the door. I was mad at you. I got to the door, but I walked away. I couldn't do it. That's what should have happened. I wouldn't have minded seeing, because I feel like coming into season 3, I do feel like Colin spoke words of intention at the end of season 2. Her saying, "And you are to me," was encouragement to him. I think when that party was over and after he slept, he was going to go pursue her. He was going to go actual courting the next day. And he probably has no idea what happened between that conversation and the next day when he was not welcomed in the house, because we've talked about this previously where Portia has a reason not to welcome him in the house, her own reason. Like, she's so worried about being found out that she was part of Jack's plan. And not to mention her own little heartbreak because he was
Well, okay, let's talk about season two,
potentially
actually. I
yeah.
want to talk about season two and all the intentions and all the moves that he was making to be a better man for Penelope in season two. Like, because
Yes,
people
I
are
think a
completely
lot of his
overlooking.
yes, I think a lot of his trajectory. People want to talk about how Colin did all these things in 24 hours after the carriage scene, but
Mm.
the foundations of
He was
that was
setting that
laid
up.
in place in season 2. He and she and he developed a relationship through those letters, which I think he had feelings before that, but they definitely developed that relationship. They were struggling to get a good conversation and in place because Eloise was always present. Like, my favorite TikTok is where, and your friend Steve, and then there's
Yes.
Steve or whatever,
Yes.
like with Eloise all the time. Like, that's totally,
And
Eloise
your
is
friend.
always in the way. They can't have an open conversation because of A, society, they're always in a public place, and B, Eloise.
Yeah.
Which I think lends to his decision and his plan to do the lessons in season 3, because it gets them kind of alone. The promenading and the public market was to get them seen together, but ultimately he wanted to get them alone so they could have a conversation. Because I think Colin believed if they could have a private conversation with nobody listening, they would have an understanding. And they were developing this. They have this conversation, this private
I
conversation
sort
at the
of
wedding.
I wish that Colin played it to his mum. I wish that they changed it. And he goes to his mum and goes, "Oh, remember how Daphne had a fake courtship in season one and how that helped get all those men interested in her? I'm going to do that for Penelope. So we're going to have a fake courtship. So I know that you're going to see us out and about doing all these things together in society, but that's just to help raise her stock." And they could have quite easily played it that way without having the marriage lessons that they had.
Looking back, okay, looking back at my TikToks and after seeing the first half and what I had envisioned for season 3, because I knew they had to change the story from the book
Yeah.
because they were younger. I knew they had created a different character for Colin than his character development in the books. So the story was going to have to be different. Here is what I thought they were going to do. I thought, because Chris Van Dusen had taken Luke Newton aside in season 2, we know this from a presser, one of the interviews. He said that he was taken aside by Chris Van Dusen, like, we have to lead up. This is when they knew they were going to be season 3. We have to do this lead up. We have to see some connection. So we're going to play these things in. And when she has her conversation with him about purpose, and then he decides to invest, but being a Bridgerton and being Colin and being crafty, and he thinks about everything before, like, when we see him take action, that's after he's like thought about stuff for a long time. So that's how he was able to find out that Jack was defrauding everyone, because he did his due diligence and he's an us. He deep dives. And so I think that threw a wrench in things, because I knew he believed Penelope could not potentially be involved in it at all. And I think getting the letter from Dundas in season 3, even though it's never mentioned, because he goes through a period of a lack of trust in Penelope, I think part of that lack of trust was really living with her and seeing how she navigated in the world, because he was thrown for a loop that she was whistle down and he did not know. And I think he was starting to wonder, because he was already suspecting Portia, that Penelope might have been involved in the fraud as well.
Yeah.
So I think that he is trying to make a better him in season 2 for Penelope. He isn't able to invest. He isn't able to make a bunch of money. He isn't able to make a name for himself because the thing everybody's investing in turns out to be false. But he calls it out. He does it in a private way to save Penelope. So he is the hero, and he speaks what he says to her publicly on the dance floor. not thinking about they're so into each other in that moment. They could have made everybody disappear then, and we would have all bought it like Pride and Prejudice. It didn't have to be the wedding one, because even in that dance scene, watch them. They are so intent on everyone else. They forget anyone else in that room exists.
Well, and
And they have this,
the Lord Squad called that out with him.
yeah, they have this conversation. They go their separate ways. Penelope disappears. She goes up to her room. It's her own house, right? So he doesn't see her anymore. He doesn't see her anywhere. He ends up talking with these dudes out on the lawn, and he's protecting their privacy, in my opinion. That's where the trajectory of this was. She happens to overhear it. He goes the next day to the house. He is barred. He is not allowed entry by either Penelope or Portia for their both different reasons. He probably tries again because it's Colin. He probably tries to catch her, but she even openly says she didn't go out in public at all, right? So he decides to leave and travel. He's heartbroken. He's upset. He's trying to write her. He's not getting anything back. He's starting to get worried. He's not even hearing from people at home, so he can't get any news of her. And that's when he just gives up. Like, life isn't fun anymore. We already said there's no way he did 17 cities. I mean, it was a whirlwind. He was a messed up dude. Like, he was mentally messed up. And he came back like, screw this. I'm getting the girl. And come home to find out she's actually actively trying to get a husband, and it is not him. And he freaks out. So he comes up with this way. He sees that finds out she said that she knows he said what he said, realized that he crushed her self-esteem and crushed her spirit. So he creates this plan to help rebuild it because he feels responsible. Sound familiar? So he couldn't fix Marina. Marina's situation got fixed for him. I think all of season 3 is him trying to fix the situation and it running away from him and not going the way he sees it going in his head. And I really, honestly, at some point...
It's the ADHD pathological people thing.
Yeah, I really thought at some point the obtuseness of Colin was not going to be that, oh, I've had these feelings for her all along, like it was in the book. I thought the obtuseness of it, because they spoke the words they did at the end of season 2, was going to be on Penelope's part, like in the carriage where he says, you know, Penelope Featherington, are you going to marry me or not? Like all cheeky. When episode 5 came in 4 effing weeks later, I thought there was going to be a conversation where he's like, we've been secretly engaged since last year. Like,
I wish they had the conversation. I wish they had the conversation after the, instead of this stupid, even though you've had even though you've traveled and you're a worldly man and all the girls in those books, was it better than that? Instead of having that absolutely horrendous conversation, I wish
that was a forgiveness conversation. I
don't
see
care.
that conversation.
I don't care. I don't like it. I wish instead the conversation was...
Sorry.
You're fine.
No, like, I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I would say we needed more to that conversation, not take that part away. We could have done less of Anthony and Kate in bed.
No, I was fine with those scenes. I think it showed it showed the growth from season 2, and we got so few Anthony and Kate scenes in season 2 that they kind of needed to have a little bit of that.
Okay.
And with the same caveat,
Portia in the mirror.
And the same caveat as we didn't get enough Penelope and Colin actually happy scenes in season 3. I expect to see that in season 4. But the scenes that I wish that we had in the aftermath scene is, I wish that we got Colin saying, how did you not know that I had set intentions this whole time?
Yes.
But then I backtracked when I thought that wasn't what you wanted. And basically that this entire last 2 years has been a miscommunication of both of our feelings, that we both had feelings and we both just didn't realize it, or both didn't realize that the other had feelings, or that it was an option.
Communication. And I think, you know, because I've rewritten the Modise scene about 70,000 times. I've rewritten the Modise scene about 70,000 times because I hate the fact that she says I know instead of I did try and tell you.
Yes.
But I think that's where all of that needed to come out. Like you're saying, like, the afterglow scene. But like, I would have loved him to rub Whistledown in her face in that moment and been like, okay, Whistledown, how did you not see that I've had feelings for you for years? Like, I would have loved that.
So I think the I know scene, I don't think it's an admission of guilt, because we all know it's not what she actually said. And I know that it's not how it played out. And I know she did try to tell him. What I think it is I know it hurt you. So, you know
Yeah.
how they say an apology isn't an apology if it includes a but. So instead
Yeah.
of being like, I did tell you, and continuing the hurt and continuing the fight, she's
Yeah.
acknowledging that I could have gone about it differently. So I'm sorry. I know, you know.
I
So
know, but they made the dialogue so
it
short in that
grated
scene.
me. It grated me too.
But yeah, I fully expected the way the first four episodes were going and the messaging that I was getting. Even it's the 1 year anniversary, okay? This show came out a year ago, so everybody's talking about the anniversary and all of the stuff is coming up again. All of the edits are coming up again. And it reminded me in the apology scene when he takes her hand and she agrees to this whole thing, like does the handshake, and she kind of stumbles and she takes this. You see her visibly steel herself and swallow and whatever. And he smiles. He's Colin and he catches the vibe and he knows that means she still has feelings for him. Like all of those little things of how they played it with each other, the two actors, made me truly believe that when the second half would drop, there was going to be this big reveal that Colin had feelings the entire time. And the joke was that little Miss Observant had been so, so low in self-esteem for herself and not realizing her own power, that she didn't see something that was right in front of her face,
And
and his
and
power empowering her in that moment of realization is what helps her get to the point where she announces she's Whistledown. Like that's how I thought
you know the
second
scene
half was
where
going to go.
you know how the admission of I wish I'd only realized my feelings sooner. Why could it
Yeah.
not have been I wish I had acknowledged that I had those feelings sooner? You know,
Well,
like
and
or
I
just
still
the
took it that
wording.
way.
I know,
Yeah,
but I still
I think he had to be very vague with, I think, and when we get to the second half and we talk about this more analytically, I think there was a very different conversation going on with Benedict than there was with Anthony. And Colin is not going to give up everything to Anthony
yeah.
because he doesn't want Anthony's involvement at all, because he views Anthony is what screwed up.
Enemy.
Not even Whistledown. I mean, yes, he has some animosity regarding Marina's outing of being pregnant by Whistledown, but most of his ire for that whole situation was the fact that Anthony took over, Anthony and Daphne and Violet, and they took away his autonomy in that moment to make his own decision. And that's why we have the mirror moment of him, Penelope and Eloise doing, or him, Portia and Eloise doing the exact same thing to Penelope.
Yeah.
So
I think
because he had to have his karmic moment, and I think
let's
he realized it was a karmic moment, and he's like, damn it, I'm Anthony.
I mean, we've talked so much about Colin's micro expressions throughout this entire podcast, so I don't think it's going to come to any of our listeners as a surprise that we are a fan of Colin's micro expressions and how
Luke Newton's
more,
acting
sorry,
ability.
yeah, Luke Newton is a phenomenal actor, and it's just that he plays his characters a lot more subtle and a lot more cerebrally than people I think give him credit for. That even when because he knows the end game, so he's making a lot of physical
Yeah.
look at the
Choices.
expressions on his face, the body, the way that it's angled, the little micro
Mm-hmm.
expressions of his hands, the wanting, the longing. Season two, Penelope coming back, you can see with his whole body, he wants to embrace that woman, and she
Yes.
wants it too, but it's not
And you can see it at the
correct.
races. At the races, okay, she's looking around like, I'm not looking for you. He
It's
looks
like,
right at
where's my
her.
girl? Where's my
His
girl?
whole body,
That's
his
my
whole face lights up.
girl.
And then
That's my girl.
when they pan away from them and you look at him, he is attached to that fence post. Like,
Mm,
I just feel like he's using that fence post as something to tactilely touch so that he doesn't openly touch her in public.
yeah.
Like, Luke Newton made so many choices that shows. I mean, I already posted in our Facebook group for our podcast, the Ladies Bridgerton podcast. Please join us if you are a fan of the podcast and want to join other like-minded people. But I already posted in there that pictorial of the fact when he walks into Danbury's soiree in season 2 and he is covertly, like, as he does his bow to her, because they don't always greet each other in a formal way. But coming into Danbury's, he does greet her in a formal way, I think, because he was going there for her. And I think that he was intending to potentially court her. But he actually bows to her when she walks up to him, and the whole time he's covertly looking at her cleavage. So,
Big
like
booty
Luke
bitches.
Newton, even in that moment, like he ends up saying, "You're Pen, you're my friend, you do not count." Again, I think what we know about Colin is Colin has to think through words. He's not a good like although I still think if he was doing a rap battle, he'd bust it out, but when it's talking to the woman of his dreams, like he needs time. He needs time to write it
He
out.
does.
Um
And I think season three, we see so much growth from him of learning how, and we even see him. Like, you want to talk about him being toxic and ignoring his wife. He is seeking out people who he is having a tumultuous time with, Eloise, to see how she is processing her
mhm.
feelings because he needs someone to have to be a sounding board for him. He's afraid to go to his mum because his mum will always be like, sort it out, fix it. That's your girl, as mums do. We
Well,
will, as good mums do, who will tell you what you need to hear. Whereas Eloise is in the sort of same boat as him and has very, very big feelings like him. They are both very ADHD coded. And so I think he knows
and they
that
both hold a grudge like nobody's
that's
business. I've said that a lot.
yes. And so he is seeking the opinion of like-minded people, not the Lord Squad, not Anthony, well, he is seeking the opinion of Kate, not Andrew, but he's seeking the
For
opinions of
real.
others and actually vocalizing instead of just sulking and, doing whatever. He is actively trying to get over this big blip that they've had in their marriage. And I think the sign of a really, really healthy male is seeking out, not bitching to others, not bad mouthing your spouse, but actively
Mhm.
trying to seek out ways of how do I move forward from this because I want to. I want it to be better, but I also want to solve the issue, not just skirt past.
Correct. And I'm going to bring out my fingers now because these are things that we've been talking since the
Five,
drop of
five,
season
five
three.
things.
No, I'm just holding up my fingers like I'm bringing them out. Like, first of all, nobody can acknowledge and take accountability better than Colin
Yeah.
Bridgerton, even if he still stands by his decision and his choice to get engaged to Marina. He acknowledged that it hurt his family and he apologized to his mother not once but twice. He also apologized kind of to Anthony, not in the same way. He knew he hurt Penelope and he came to her and he apologized. It was genuine. Like, everything I need to know about how somebody should apologize to another human being, I have learned from Colin Bridgerton. Okay. He knows how to take accountability and
Mhm.
apologize when he is in the wrong.
Yeah.
And the issue I think a lot of people have in the second half is the fact that he feels wronged. He's
Mhm.
waiting for her sincere apology and she doesn't know how to apologize because of the home she grew up in. She tries a couple of times and she has things to learn too. But everybody, like Penelope is written as such a strong female character, and this is my issue. This is my issue with media. I've soapboxed about this before, but I struggle with the fact that in the media, to be able to have a strong male character, we
Yes.
have to make the female character be dependent on them
Yeah.
or be women usually get two archetypes, the mother
And
or the whore.
that's
So that
why I sing to you that I love Lucy and Bradford's connection in Tim's in The Rookie because
rookie.
it is not just Lucy being a weak character who needs rescuing time and time again. Yes, she got taken by the serial killer and he was the one who saved her. And then
Mm-hmm.
how many times does she save him once? I mean, her first day on the job, she literally saved him when he was shot. It is
Right.
balanced. They save each other, they protect each
Mm-hmm.
other. She does not
Once upon
have
a
to
time.
lessen herself for him. Why can we not have that in Shondaland? Shondaland, I think,
Mm-hmm.
has gone a little bit too, when you make an overcorrection. So we've seen for so long that women in TV are wives and mothers and not much else.
Right. And that's where I'm going. Like
And if we
women
have a
for a
strong,
man,
like,
if yeah,
if
if a
we have a
man is a strong character, we either have an absent woman We have a lot of widowers and stuff in the shows from the 60s and 70s and so on. Father Knows Best, Bonanza, what have you. The woman is either completely gone or she is not a wife, as in the Andy Griffith Show when we have Aunt B. And
how many
or she's just a wife, or
how many
just a mother, or
how many nagging wife stereotypes do we have? I even started watching Modern Family, and they play this dad off as this like super quirky, hilarious, fun-loving, and the mum is just type A and a naggy. And
wife,
I see the way that people perceive them online, and it's that she's a nagging wife and he's just a happy-go-lucky, funny guy. And like, why would she be on him all the time?
But she's the mother type. This is my thing. Like, if we have a strong male character, we either get a mother, a subservient wife, an absent wife, or a whore.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry for the strong language, but that's what we get in the female counterpart to a strong male. Yes. If we have a strong female, she is either played off as a bitch or domineering, but they always have to dumb down the male.
Yes.
Or they make him emotionally immature, so she has to mother him. He's incompetent. And
she's basically a mother to him.
Yeah, she's a mother to him instead of being a mother with him.
Or you have
being a parent with him.
One of my most hated tropes is where you have a superpower couple and the male feels emasculated by the woman because she is a great mother, because she is a great worker, like we saw in Desperate Housewives with Lynette when I can't remember his name, but he cheats on her, and it's because she emasculated him his whole life.
It's her fault that he cheated.
Yes,
because she's a strong character. Yes, so for a woman to be a strong character, you have to have a weak man. He's a weak in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And so we are not used to, or you have a strong female that there's a series of weak men. They cannot hold down a relationship because they're so strong. There's not a man that can give as good as they get or whatever, for a lack of a better expression. Colin and Penelope were the couple that television could have made a team. He was already progressive in his thoughts about women for the Regency times.
I do actually really like, and I think that we are going to see a great power partnership in them that we should have had in the likes of Queen Charlotte and King George, except that obviously couldn't play out that way.
I wonder if because they're giving Kate and Anthony power couple status kind of stuff, that they don't think they can have more than one. But even in the books,
because he's going to be taking on the role of Lord in acting in Lord in place of his son, I think that we are actually going to get them both really falling into their roles together as a partnership, taking on raising a family, being writers, still traveling. I think we're going to get a really balanced partnership in season 4. And I think season 3 was just laying the groundwork for how they will resolve. Because they do say the first year of your relationship sets the foundation for how you resolve issues, because your brain creates this synapses of A plus B equals C. Yeah. So that's laying the foundation. And I think it's fantastic that they are putting in the hard yards now to make sure that those foundations are put in place. Okay, we have an issue. This is how we solve it. We're not going to yell. We need to take some time to start with, and then we come together and we solve it as a team. But it is okay to take time. If it is better than the alternative of yelling and screaming and saying things that you don't mean, and being cruel to each other, it is okay to take time. Like for my husband, he is autistic. He requires time. And that was really hard for me in the initial stages, because I'm an anxious, attached person.
Oh, preach it.
And so to take time meant that I had to sit and stew in my feelings. But now it actually works out way, way better. I mean, this sounds silly, but we don't generally come across many nowadays that isn't solved by feeding me or sleeping me
or sleeping with you.
It's usually one of 3 things. Give me one of those 3 things and I'm good to go. Usually I'm tired or hungry for food or him. Either way.
Well,
but
I've been in therapy. I've been in therapy. My son's been in therapy, and my son's one therapist says everything boils down to HALT. It's an acronym. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Yeah. Those are the 4 base needs of humans. Yes. And if you are dysregulated, you have to figure out which one it is. And the way I always say it is start from the outside in, kind of like math,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
PEMDAS.
yeah, yeah.
It start from the outside in.
Goodness, yeah.
Yeah, start from the outside in. So let's work with hungry and tired first. Those are the more easily fixed. And then if it's not corrected, or if you don't regulate from that, then you got to deal with the harder stuff of lonely and angry. Those are a little trickier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I think there was the thing that was missing for me was they didn't play it from the beginning of season 1. They did not play it truly that Colin Bridgerton, I mean, I saw the signs that Colin was there for Penn and not Marina. He never looked at Marina.
No.
He was the whole time he was in that study, when he finally visited, he was clocking Penn the whole time.
Beeline straight
when
for Penn.
when he was facing toward where Marina was, he wasn't looking down at Marina. He was looking out of the window. The groundwork was laid by a previous creative leader that in the end, I think he was going to have had feelings all the time. He was saving himself for her, just waiting for her to catch up. She was taking a real long time. That's how he could say his cheeky proposal. And at some point they would say, I thought we were secretly engaged, and then you just completely cut me off and broke my heart, and that's why I'm hurt. And now I find out that you lied to me and all this stuff. Like I expected that for the second half, with all the tumultuousness they were talking about in the drama.
And let's be real.
We got something.
Let's be really real here. It was a huge betrayal. Yes, she did something amazing, and I would never take that away from her. But let's be real. If any single one of us found out that our partner was keeping a whole side of their life from us, it would hurt.
She was leading a double life.
It wouldn't matter if it was Steven's telling me that he's working late on a Thursday, but actually he's going to book club. I don't care what it is. If you lied to me about it, it's going to hurt, no matter how deep that lie is and no matter what the ramifications of. It just so happened to be that the lie that she had been telling directly implicated him and his siblings and everyone that he loved. And it was a big thing I need time to process this. I need time to think through every article that you have written, how it implicated me, what you said about me.
The worst thing she ever said about him was he didn't even know who he was. Yes. And that was directly something he had told her himself. And she clocked his personality change when he came back. Because I think he went away a brokenhearted man. Yeah. And I think he came back like, I need to find out what's going on with her. I'm so worried I'm going to find out. But I need to up my stock value in her eyes. I need her to see that I'm looking for a wife, so that when I court her, she understands that I'm ready. And I think that's why he was flirting with those women. And I think his awkwardness, where people, and here's my thing, perfect example of how people view men versus how they view women in media, right? He flirts with women who are accepting and they want it. They want him to flirt with them, right? But he comes off as cringe because he's awkward at it, because he doesn't have a connection with them, because they are not who he wants. Penn has the same problem in the first lesson. She's completely awkward. Yeah. But she comes off as icky, like in a cute way. Is like awkward in a cute way.
Yeah. Whereas his is like,
look at her. She loves him so much. She loves Colin so much. She just is too awkward with other men. And that's how it plays off. Yeah. And he even smiles down at her like, oh, she loves me so much she can't even flirt with other people, right?
I get real Penn.
Only I get real Penn. And I think nobody is giving him that same benefit of the doubt that Colin was cringe in that moment, because I do think that's the only time to me he was cringe. And I think the reason he came off cringe is because he's trying to put his feet in Benedict and Antony's shoes and how they navigated the ton, because women flocked toward them, and he wanted to appear like he was valuable so that Penn would see him as valuable, because he didn't believe Penn saw him as valuable. And I think Luke Newton played it amazingly to a T. He gave Colin Bridgerton, who did not get much depth on the page, immense depth in the character. Yeah. He knows his character. He thinks about his character. He thinks about all of these. Like it bothers me, Luke, honestly, that you never questioned the speed of travel at that time that you could go to that many places and be
Oh,
on a ship for 6 weeks there and 6 weeks back. I mean, like that bothers me. You never thought about that, but I love that you thought about like what would it have been like to have so many adventures that your coat looks like. I mean, he had the Indiana Jones jacket of the
yeah, you
1815s.
did.
Like his coat was so Indiana Jones. Like if you go back and
We
watch Indiana Jones,
love a
Indiana
pirate,
Jones,
Colin.
yes, Indiana Jones has been on so many adventures with his archaeologist self that his coat is so worn. His leather jacket is so worn, and you can see it. I mean, especially now that we have Ultra
Leather
HD,
takes a
you can
lot of wear and tear to wear
to
out.
wear. Yes. And for Colin, he either bought that coat old because he loved it and then he wore it so much that I mean, leather forms to the person
Yes.
also.
Yeah.
It comes a certain way off the rack,
He
but
would never
as you
buy
wear
anything
it
secondhand. No.
and your body and your moisture affect that leather to the point where it just fits you in a certain way. And for that coat to fit him as well as it did, like he lived in that coat. He
Yes.
lived in that coat for however long. They're saying 4 months, but
We
I think he used a
are
TARDIS.
about to be at the 2 hour mark. So I am going to wrap up our love of Colin Bridgerton there. But before we wrap up entirely for the day, I want to share a love story from our lovely Sarah, who is one of our Patreon subscribers. As we have said
Yes,
on our Patreon, as part
we
of
have a
the
pair now.
we have a pair, two pairs in a pear tree. Sarah has been one of our OG listeners, group members, and one of our most active group members. She
Fanfic
writes
writers.
Yes, she does fanfic on AO3. She's written lots of
Mm-hmm.
wonderful stories. So we want to share our story from Sarah, which is my Bridgerton love story, which is how she fell in love with Brid. In my youth, I was an avid reader of both fiction and non-fiction books. My brain circuited there. Until my father introduced me to Tolstoy, I could not make heads nor tails of it, despite rereading the first chapter over 15 times. Not surprisingly, I
Tolstoy,
decided to
very
you're
relatable.
relatable. Not surprisingly, I decided to take a break from reading. Relatable. Tolstoy would do that to you.
Relatable. Tolstoy burnout. Tolstoy burnout.
I started reading again in later life where one's time to be able to read for leisure was limited. I decided my adventure back into reading would be focused on the genre of romance. I was after books to read that didn't require me to think, as it felt too much of my time involved thinking in real life. Absolutely love that.
Relatable.
Relatable. Yes. One day in the bookshop, I came across the first book in the Bridgerton series by Julia Quinn, The Duke and I. While reading the book, I found myself laughing out loud. This was the first romance book I had read that evoked laughter. This is where my love of the Bridgerton world began. Having thoroughly enjoyed book one, I proceeded to read through the rest of the series, noticing that each book was uniquely written. I went on to order and read the prequels as well as some of Julia Quinn's other book series. Please read the Brooksby series, everyone. You can imagine my anticipation and delight when I found out that the Bridgerton universe was being adapted into a TV series. I couldn't wait. Not only did it serve my enjoyment of a bit of romance, but it also catered to my love of watching period dramas on TV, in movies, and DVD. As with all love stories, there are bumps in the road. There were definitely some books I enjoyed reading more than others. As far as the TV series is concerned, the first major bump in the road was Queen Charlotte. That bump for me was just because it made me cry. Ugly cry so bad. Thankfully, it did not end my love affair with Bridgerton. I enjoyed season 3, even though I felt there were some questionable writing choices. The romantic side of me enjoyed part 1 of season 3 the most. Relatable. Part 2 provided another bump in the road for me, with making it seem that perhaps the two main themes of Francesca's book might be discarded entirely, a fear that many of us have. I am hoping that is not the case. I am apprehensive of season 4, but hope that it serves to be a catalyst to revitalize my love and enthusiasm for all things Bridgerton. In other words, so far, my Bridgerton love story ends with to be continued. As for my love story in real life, I'm afraid it wasn't romantic in the least. Let me put it this way. Our engagement was less romantic than Michael Dolan's proposal to Amanda Price in the TV miniseries Lost in Austin. Enough said. I love that story. And
But Sarah, like
yes, I oh, wait, wait. I just
Tosh
want
just read her email verbatim. Like, that is her writing style.
that was what I wanted to say
Yeah.
is, Sarah, you actually have a beautiful way of writing. Your flow, I appreciate correct grammar. Love that. My own pause was like, because I didn't blow it up far enough to be able to read it a bit smoothly. My eyesight's not the best, but I loved reading that story because it's so relatable for many of us. But just the way that you
Yes.
write is beautiful. I don't read fanfics because I don't have time nor energy nor anything.
Well, and we've been, if anybody who's newer to the Facebook group, and I'm going to say probably within the last, because it's my turn and I've been months now not writing my part. I've been living a life, guys. I really need to get back to it. But Sarah has been
I need
writing
to stop
in
living my
the
life to write.
in the Facebook group. We have a fanfic that we are all putting in part, and she's been writing on that, and it's been a joy. Like, I need to go back and revisit it, especially like I just did some editing on my original fanfic I wrote myself, trying to make it in a giveaway form, to go with our Patreon stuff, a tier in our Patreon stuff, but or buy me a coffee or whatever. But revisiting my own love of writing.
We will leave it there and continue on next week's episode. If you have anything in particular you would like us to cover, or any Bridgerton knowledge you would like us to share, please head to our Facebook page, The Ladies Bridgerton. And if you're enjoying our podcast, please remember to click follow on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, as it greatly supports our pod to grow.
Podcast. You said pod.
Pod.
We are
Pod.
a class now. We are a pod class and how to analyze a TV show. And again, thank you for listening to the musings, rantings, ravings, and soapboxing of two mad women.